Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome back to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. I'm Barbara Hardt.
And I'm Doug Armitage. And now for this week's news.
First, we'd like to give thanks to Cynthia Davis and Art DeVitalis for their help taking this podcast on for the last 6 months. We're working on taking our podcast in a hyper-local direction with new staff members and production assistants. If you're interested in being part of the process, email publisher@themountaineer.com.
Our intro music is performed by local band New Family Dog. Lead vocalist John Black Dog Ridnell says this song was inspired by a memory of a woman. Their new album is called Halo. It features John Ridnell, Miles Ridnell, Sally Van Meter, and Michael Wooten. You can find more information about John Ridnell at www.johnridnell.com and about New Family Dog at www.newfamilydog.com.
This episode is brought to you by the Mineshaft Restaurant, the Very Nice Brewing Company, Honeydew Handyman Services, the Mountain Man Outdoor Store, Hardt's Backhoe, Brightwood Music, and of course, the Mountaineer newspaper.
To the news desk. Peak to Peak musicians and artists, we're looking for you. Would you like to feature a story in the Mountaineer? We cover all news of the Peak to Peak area, including business and artist profiles. We also offer features on our podcast, website, and social media. These are now completed in person with our journalists. We are your community newspaper. Interested? Email publisher@themountaineer.com to get on the list for upcoming editions.
For our second story, Dango Rose will talk to Doug about Brightwood music in Nederland.
All right, this is Dango Rose with the Mountaineer Everybody's Listening podcast. My guest today is Doug Armitage of Brightwood Music in Nederland, Colorado. It's great to have you here today, Doug. How are you?
I'm great, Dango. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm having a good morning today. We're recording in the morning time, and Doug has already sold one guitar this morning before opening the shop. Is that common in the summertime?
Well, it's common pretty much any time. If somebody wants a guitar, they're banging on my door, whether I'm open or not. So, yes.
Well, you have so many guitars lining the walls of Brightwood Music, and it's been that way for a long time. When did you guys first originally open?
Well, Dango, we opened, I think, about 11 years ago, right now. And I was over in a very small space on the other side of town. And we grew, and here we are at our new location.
Yeah, that's where we met, Doug. I remember that small location right by Camp Mandu really well. It's a very intimate setting. And then when 6 people were in the store, it felt like a backstage after party. It was very close quarters. But over time, you've sort of become like a focal point or a gathering center for the town's musicians. And I'd say that it's been an essential service to the town of Nederland in keeping it alive, keeping the music culture and the scene alive.
You know, the culture here in Nederland, the number of people who are musicians, and I might add very good musicians, it's been astounding. And it was that way before I even opened the store 11 years ago. I mean, the history of Nederland goes back to the days of Caribou Ranch and all the, incredible musicians who lived and worked and recorded albums up there. It is loads of fun to have a music store in Nederland because you see all kinds of people. The summer is a little bit different. We see a lot of people from outside of the state, or and always a lot of people who are fascinated by the musical history of Nederland, Colorado.
Yeah, the stories go on and on. Do people still talk about the ranch and Caribou Studios, like in the shop, from day to day?
I get people who come in to tour Nederland just because they've heard of Caribou Ranch, and then I have a lot of people who have never heard of it, and far be it from me to be the person to introduce them to that. I say, that's what the internet's for. You should look it up.
I wonder if we should start having tours, like almost like historical society museum tours of Nederland music history, or at least a little.
It would be kind of fun to do.
So right now, how's the summer looking in Nederland? Are there open jams happening from time to time?
Oh gosh, yes. There's lots of good music going on right now in Ned. We have had jams even during the COVID time. It's kind of difficult to do it on Zoom, but we tried to teach a lot of lessons that way. And now that we're all coming back around again, it's really funny to watch everybody learning how to play with each other one more time. That's really fun to do, though.
When you don't have that 0.2 second latency when you're playing on Zoom, it changes things in person.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm really glad that, we're of the people who actually understand what that 0.2% latency is. It's funny to watch people who have been suffering through that, trying to catch up for that small amount of time, but it seems to be working.
Good. It does seem to be working. So what are some of your favorite jams right now going on in the neighborhood?
Well, there's a couple of them. Mineshaft has had some really good jams. Train Cars Coffee and Yogurt Company. A lot of times you'll see some of our more famous musicians actually playing at that small a place. And there's been a couple of jams right after they get finished playing, which has really been good for everybody. It's been a lot of fun. Blue Owl Books and Boutique is having an outdoor jam. And I really like that one. That's a lot of fun. The only thing is that it's right by the road, and it seems that during the hours of the jam is when the most motorcycles with the least amount of noise suppression want to drive past. There's nothing you can do about that except wave to the guys. We've had a couple of good ones locally here, just right down the street from the music store here. We have an absolutely incredible brewing company, the Very Nice Brewing Company. And we've been sitting out in front during the daytime there and just sort of playing. And of course, the new distillery that's out in Rollinsville. And they've been having some people out there too. Again, that the problem there is that highway noise makes it difficult to, be very effective just an acoustic bass. You
Absolutely.
Pretty much got to plug something in.
Well, maybe that Rollinsville one should become more of a electric plugged-in hybrid blues jam of sorts.
It would be nice if we could see some more of that type of thing. I'd really enjoy seeing a wider or a more diverse type of music. And that's probably one of the places where it could very well happen.
Yeah, I would think so too. Doug, just from hearing the list of all the jams going on in the neighborhood and hearing a little bit about them, it sounds like it's more thriving than it has been in years as far as hearing music outdoors in the summertime in Nederland.
Last year, of course, with COVID, it was very, very difficult. It was hard to really, as I say, get together with other people. Nowadays, everybody is dying to get out and play.
How is everything going at the music store, given the changing culture of how people buy things?
That's a really good question. And that's it's fascinating because, of course, it being my business, I want to think about that all along so I can try and satisfy the needs of the customers as they come in the door, and maybe try to anticipate the needs of the customers so that I can help them, discover new ways of doing things. We've had such a wonderful time with changing over the product lines as we've gone along. One of the things I've noticed is it used to be that we'd have one upright bass in stock because somebody's going to want one, but I put it out in front of the store when it was the tiny store because I didn't have room for both people and the bass in the store. So it went outside, and it lived outside for a couple of winters. Miles Ridnell eventually got that one. Now I've got 4 upright basses in stock, and they'll probably go within this summer to 1 or 2 other, homes. We have expanded a lot our banjos. We started off with just having some good, inexpensive banjos for people to start to learn on, but now having worked a lot with Ohm banjos down in Boulder, we've got a lot of their new and really fascinating design instruments that they've come out with. We're also working with Goldtone on electric, solid body electric banjos with a variety of different pickup systems. That's been really exciting for the local banjo players. One of the things that I've discovered is that people really don't want to just have a mandolin. They want to have an octave mandolin and a mandola, and maybe they want to have a bouzouki with different, string tensions and different tunings. That's been really great. We've expanded that section. Unfortunately, right now it's difficult to get a hold of high quality mandolins. Most of the builders that I know that I really enjoy their instruments, they're 2 years out in their manufacturing procedure. The production instruments, one of the best of the production instruments is Eastman, and I had placed an order with them Christmas of last year. That instrument came in the 20th of June, and it was gone by the 23rd of June. And a guy flew in from Chicago to buy it. So
Wow.
Source of supply is really difficult.
Demand really is exceeding supply right now in so many ways in so many industries.
Yeah, that's true. Another interesting thing about this is when I originally opened the shop, I would never imagine that one of the things that I found that I'd need would be, 5 or 6 different designs of microphones for doing exactly what we're doing right now.
Right.
Being able to produce and effectively produce, and different types of headphones and all of that. It means adding another whole section to the store. Looks like I better add all this, and it sells well. It's good. The electronic music, the EDM people, don't have a tendency to buy in a music store. They have a tendency to just buy everything and anything online based on the reviews that are published either by the manufacturers or 1 or 2 users. That's a fascinating thing to watch. There's been an enormous number of changes in source of supply for things like PA systems for smaller groups, for people who are, up to a 4-man band, or, drums, bass, a couple of guitars, and a lead vocalist. That used to be something we sold a lot of. And nowadays, the whole dynamic of that has changed. There are some amazingly professional people who do production up here locally, have studios and do their own production. And a lot of those people, you'll bring them in to do a gig, and it's less expensive than carting all the equipment around yourself. It's also easier these days. The equipment is a lot lighter, easier to handle, but you should have a professional mixing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Doug, so it sounds like you've added and incorporated a little bit of a pro audio section to the music store.
Yeah, we try to. I don't know how much to invest in the pro audio section, especially with the source of supply being so difficult, but even more so because it changes so quickly. If you have something that is, an absolutely beautiful set of headless or wireless microphones, all of a sudden 2 years down the road, those are totally obsolete. So it's really tough to stock stuff like that in a store.
It's true. And one thing I just want to mention for our listeners is you guys are amazing teachers. You have a whole crew of amazing teachers over there, and lutherie.
Yes, we do.
Instrument repair. And there's one thing that never changes, is that being able to go into a store and have an instrument in your hands makes all the difference in being able to form that initial relationship with the wood and the tension of the strings and just the feeling of the guitar or the mandolin or the banjo or the bass. And that will never change. I just am so grateful that you're in business and rocking it and still holding down this sort of pillar of the Nederland music community. So thank you, Doug.
Well, you're very welcome, Dale.
So the as far as lessons go, anything you want to share about lessons real quick?
Well, we've got a new batch of folks, and some of the folks that have been teaching with us for a while. A lot of people stopped. We did not do any live lessons during COVID. So we've sort of rearranged the teaching around here, the spaces for teaching, and made it easier for people to sit a little bit further apart than they did before. You can remember in our old space, the original lesson rooms, I don't think you could sit 6 feet apart from virtually anybody. These days, we've got larger lesson rooms, and it's a lot easier to accomplish that. Some of the people who I would highly recommend to most the folks, Banjo Dan is, comes in from Ward and teaches people. He's always really fun. And of course, Black Dog, John Ridnell, he's a great teacher, all different age groups. I really want to say, teaching younger kids how to understand an instrument like a guitar, it's a challenge for me. And I just look at John and I see him doing it so automatically and so effortlessly. I think it's just wonderful.
So John really is a wonderful teacher, huh?
Oh, he's a great teacher. And he has a lot of students that he's had over the years who have gone on to become, really wonderful musicians right now.
That's so wonderful. And then the luthier aspect, you are doing the repairs, you are doing maintenance.
Oh, yeah. That's a big business for us. In fact, if nothing else, I know that the instrument repairs and especially maintenance for people is one thing that is going to be paying the rent bill here. We have a special for someone who just wants to get their string changed. So a set of strings plus $10 gets you a guitar. And everybody wants to do that rather than sit there and do it themselves. It's just been amazing how many people rely on me to do that. We have, as far as the more precise repairs and the longer repairs that need a little bit more experience, myself, having been doing that for 40 years, I really do have the experience. The toughest thing there is when someone has tried to repair an instrument on their own and then brings it to me later, that makes things a little bit more difficult. I want to say, as long as we're public here, never, ever, ever use epoxy on a musical instrument. And if it has Bondo on it, I'm probably not going to be able to even address repairing it. But most of the repairs are simple things, cracks from humidity problems, and one or two with, broken necks. I see a lot of that on guitars and also on basses and cellos. The majority of what I do is regluing bridges. That's something that some of the manufacturers didn't use the smartest method of gluing bridges on. And so you take the bridge off, you remove all the old glue, and you make it so that that glue seam is going to hold on for a much longer time. We do a lot of bridges for violins and, of course, restringing and repairing violins. I've worked with a couple of people locally who have decided that they really want to be able to do that, and they buy an instrument online and bring it in, and we talk about what the repairs are going to be, and they attempt to do that themselves using some very careful directions, and it's to see people attempting to do that. We also sell these days a lot of kits here out of the store, so people can take on a kit and learn how to build something. And if you start with something really easy like a ukulele, you can really get kids involved in that. You're going to shave the neck down so it fits in there and glue it in. Then, of course, you get to paint it whatever color you want. And we all know how great that is for kids.
That sounds like the coolest arts and crafts project. Doug, it's so great to speak with you today. Wishing you only the best on a prosperous and fulfilling rest of summer, the reemergence of our collective humanity. And it's been wonderful to speak with you today. And for all of our listeners out there, be sure to check out Brightwood Music in person, in the store, and you can check out more online. What's the website, Doug?
Our website is brightwood.net, but I'd prefer that you go to Facebook and just put in Brightwood Music in Facebook. We update that on an almost daily basis to try and keep track of all the different instruments that come through the store.
That sounds good. And then come on over to Brightwood, join a jam right there at the Very Nice or at the train cars or at Blue Owl Books, and enjoy some Netherlands summertime. And thank you so much, Doug. My name is Dango Robes. This is the Mountaineer Everybody's Listening podcast. We'll hear you again real soon.
Thanks for the interview, Dango and Doug.
The Mountaineer has advertising packets that include print, social media, online, and podcast. Online ads are included for $1 per week when you're advertising in print. Email publisher@themountaineer.com for info on a marketing plan for all your business needs.
And now, for our final story of the week, it's back to Jamie Lammers, talking to Gabrielle Chisholm about this year's Gilpin County Fair. Take it away, Jamie.
Gabrielle Chisholm with Gilpin County Parks and Recreation.
What's the deal with the Gilpin County Fair this year? When's it being held?
So the fair is going to be an old-fashioned fair. So the Hardt group and the Archwood 4-H came together and decided they wanted to do a volunteer fair this year. So the commissioners went ahead and approved it for Saturday, July 24th from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. But we also have some other activities. The Friends of Gilpin County Community Center will also be doing a stargazing event at 8:30 till about 10:30. So it's an all-day thing. There's still going to be things like mutton busting, the High Country Auxiliary, pancake breakfast in the morning. So a lot of the familiarity of the old fairs that have happened before just scaled down a bit. We don't have a fair coordinator this year. We just got back the Parks and Rec department in March. So it's going to be the old-fashioned fair, the way we used to be when it first started 20-some years ago.
How is it different now that we've had to kind of worm our way around COVID regulations?
We weren't really in the know of how it would work with COVID, so right now it does look like what we have passed, that Gilpin County property, you don't have to wear a mask if you're outside and you're keeping social distance with others from your household, but if you are inside or if you're talking with others closely that are not in your household, a mask is required. So we're taking it day by day, just with different things that are changing with the state and public health regulations. We just have to make sure that we're staying safe, but we also want to get back out there and start having more programs and having fun again, too.
And is there anything that changed in setting up the fair because of COVID?
Because of COVID, we just don't have the staff or the manpower like we used to. So we used to have a lot more volunteers, or at least paid staff as well, that was able to help set up the fair before. And there was a fair committee that was actually pretty well established, and they would decide on different things, and we had a bigger budget. But I think this year, just for our first year coming back within a couple months, I think it's still going to be really fun to be outside, and we already have about 35 vendors that have signed up. I guess COVID has just changed just with rules of health and just the capacity of how we can handle setting everything up, and money, of course, budget.
So who are some of the vendors that have already signed up?
Amanda with Photography LLC, Armstrong Concessions, Canyon Cares of Coal Creek Canyon, Excel Energy and Central City and the Central City Fire Department. They'll actually be doing carbon monoxide giveaways and setup. They'll come into your house and set them up. Timberline, I think, will also be partnering with them to do that. Clinica Family Health, Dory Dozen's Delights, Frank and Buddy, Friends of Gilpin County Community Center. Like I said, they're going to be helping volunteer and then do the star party. Carolyn Peterson actually is helping me organize all the booths and helping with setup and that kind of stuff. Gilpin County Human Services, Gilpin County Library, the Homestead Farmers Market, JKQ will be our food vendor here, and they're also our sponsor for our mutton busting. Axe and Snacks, they'll be here, and they'll be sponsoring our log splitting contest. Kelly and Karen Pottery, we have Kona Ice coming. So yeah, there's a lot going on. So I'm really excited that we're able to do it this year, and yeah.
And what are you personally most excited for about this year's fair?
I think that I get to be here the whole time. In past years, it's a 3-day event, and I didn't get to see all of it all the time just because I'm working on other things. So the fact that I'm coordinating a lot of it and I have to be here for the whole event, just excited to see the whole thing from beginning to end.
Where is it being hosted?
The Gilpin County Fairgrounds, 230 Norton Drive, Blackhawk, right here. So we're in the community center right now. So it's just outdoors from here. The outdoor arena, that's where the Archwood group will be having a dedication for Shelby and Cody Allen in the morning at 10 a.m. We're renaming it the Allen Memorial Arena. So there'll be a schedule of events on our website and Facebook page. But all the rest of the fairgrounds, so that's where all the booths will be set up outside above the grandstands, and then inside the barn and under the eaves where all the vendor booths will be. Then in the fairgrounds parking lot, we're going to have an obstacle course, all the first responder trucks. Timberline will be doing truck rides, face painting, a Parks and Rec booth, so just showing all of our programs and activities. That's where JKQ will be out in the fairgrounds parking lot as well. Okay. Oh, carriage rides. We're going to have carriage rides on the south end of the barn where the back they can ride carriage, so yeah.
Is there anything else that you can think of that you're excited about or that you want to add or tell anybody who's planning on visiting the fair?
Just come out and have a good time. I want to make sure that we're all saying hi to our community and being safe, but supporting one another and trying to get back to where we were before. I want to give a huge shout out to the G-Cart, Norma Jones and Larry Sterling, and then the Archwood group, Crystal Meyer and Heather Zeckler for putting all the arena events together and getting everything prepped. And then obviously the Friends group that have really stepped up to help. Carolyn Peterson helped me, and then Sarah Swanson, and then the volunteers the day of too. So thank you everyone for helping me put all this together.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, you two, for the updated information about the 2021 Gilpin County Fair.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. All editions of the Mountaineer Podcast are available on our website at www.themountaineer.com.
Pick up this week's editions on stands across the Peak to Peak region.
And go online to www.themountaineer.com to catch up on more local news. I'm Doug Armitage.
And I'm Barbara Hardt. Until next time, thanks for listening.
6 feet on the river was a fool. There ain't nothing sadder than being alone.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.